Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanny and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Very well.
Going mighty fine.
Me too. Any news?
No.
Had a good week? Yeah.
I did.
Well, we're doing back-to-back, so not a lot happened in between.
We went caravanning on the weekend to Mansfield.
I thought you say the last 5 minutes.
The last 5 minutes.
That's what's happening this weekend. So for people listening next week, that's what we did.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay.
And I turned 56.
I mean, I could tell you about how
it
it went, but I'd be lying. I'd be lacking the ring of
Your
truth.
birthday's coming up, isn't it, Woo?
That's what he's saying.
Yes. I'm getting
tomorrow.
They're doing it. Is it tomorrow? Happy birthday for tomorrow. And of course, when this is released, it'll be 2 months later.
Yep. So for anyone listening now, don't text Will and say happy birthday.
Yeah.
For 2 months ago, if you are listening, his birthday is in May. So I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanny.
And I'm Clarkey. And together we are
Trial by
Wine.
And what are we drinking? Are you still on the interesting water that you had earlier, Swan?
Oh, no, I've made it slightly more interesting.
Oh.
So this is what I had before. This is such a visual gag. So this is the lowest of the low, the tap water. Tap water.
From the bathroom?
From the bathroom that doesn't have a lid on it because it went on the floor and I can't find it. So I just use it as a vessel. And this was downstairs and it's something I mixed up at lunchtime, which has I don't know what you call it really, like an alkalizing agent in it. So that's what I'm on now. So this trial by wine is really, I know, it looked like when you said you've been a wee, I brought it back with me. Yeah, it's not great.
We're really rock and roll.
You need to calm down.
We're really rock and roll on an alkalizing agent. Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm going to start calling you Susie Quattro because you're so rock and roll.
I'm so rock and roll. Oh God.
Absolutely.
What about you guys? What are you drinking?
Calm down, honey. It's a highway to hell. We're still on the sparkling water with scotch. Delicious.
And Schmitty?
It's doing nothing for my voice so far.
Oh, not working. Maybe you should just have scotch neat. I'm on vodka and not vodka and hard solo. My own version of a hard lime, hard lemon. It's just a bit of vodka with a solo.
Hard rated.
That's it. The hard rated. It's my version. Because you can make it a lot cheaper if you do it yourself. Just saying.
Did I tell you? I think I've already told you this, but they're still downstairs, of course, because I haven't touched them. Mm-hmm. But you know how I did tell you this about when you had the Papa Salt gin?
Yeah.
And then I've got the premixes downstairs.
Yeah.
You know, should I ever drink? But yeah, I just.
Well, one of these days you'll surprise us all.
Turn up hammered and be a real booze rat. Yeah, that'll be a surprise.
Yeah. It would.
Yes.
A pleasant surprise, I'm sure. All right. Who's got a story for us?
I do.
Excellent.
And probably one of the greatest things about this story is it's in sharp contrast to the story from last week that Clarkey brought to the table, where that one was, about sort of social injustice and talking to us about a time where things were very unfair. This is a much more modern tale.
Right.
Much more shallow.
Okay.
Nobody dies.
Oh, good to know.
Yep. So this is just one of those stories that when I saw it, I was like, really, there are people like this? It's going to annoy you, It's going to annoy you. These people are just, there's a special word for them, but I'll save that until the end. So my sources for today's story are abovethelaw.com, latimes.com, dailymail.com, huffingtonpost.com, and there was a series that I found, and the series... I've written it down. I think it's called Smug Shot as opposed to Mug Shot, right? So like Smug Shot. Yeah. So you get the idea of sort of where we're headed with this one.
I'm not liking the people already.
Oh, you are not going to like these people.
And Smug Shot.
Smug Shot, right. This is the stuff that's going to really rattle you. Okay, so I found this term in reference to this story, and unfortunately I think I'm going to have to use Schmitty to use her German character voice here, but... The term is Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude, yes. And it's the emotional experience of pleasure in response to another's misfortune.
Correct, yeah.
Schaden equals damage and Freuden is joy. So
we call that a CNX Tuesday in Australia?
Yeah, it's something like that. it's when
Maybe.
someone falls over and you all laugh.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So
Which I have been known to do when your friend fell over on the fire. Not on the fire, but,
That's what friends do to each other, though, but I'm thinking someone's causing the pain, like tripping them over and then
Yes.
laughing that they fell
Oh,
over.
yeah, no.
So that doesn't refer to the crime. That refers to how I hope that you sort of feel by the end when,
Okay.
it is all played out. But,
Oh, right, okay.
You know what I mean?
So
So
you
it doesn't
are
refer
looking
to
for us to experience schadenfreude?
I'm hoping that there'll be a little bit of a sense
right.
of, by the end you'll be like, oh,
Right.
thank God. Yeah,
Okay.
although
That's
maybe
the
not enough.
goal.
Okay,
That's the
right.
goal of today's episode. Okay, so where should we start from a geography point of view? I hate to disappoint Clarky, so I'm not. We're back in the US. Always, always.
I reckon I could have guessed
You
that.
could have guessed always. And this story is set in Orange County, the OC. You may or may not be familiar with the Real Housewives of Orange County or the OC. But what's quite interesting, and I wasn't aware of this is called Irvine, and Irvine is a city within Orange County. So what we're more often than familiar with is the coast. So Newport, Laguna Beach, etc. And what happens is if you think of the coast, you've got LA above it, and then you head down to Orange County. And there's the coastal cities, the coastal towns of Laguna Beach and Newport, and Irvine sits inland slightly, so it's slightly east. And the best way I could describe it is when I saw footage of it from sort of an aerial perspective, I did check to see if this is where it had been filmed, but it's not like it is on the coast. It's inland, and it's a purpose-built city. When I say city, think of a more sort of suburban, sort of residential area. They just call it, the city of Irvine. And it was created so that it was going to be a safe community. Very much cookie cutter houses, but quite modern. I don't know if it was built maybe in the 70s or the 80s, but what it immediately took me to was the scenes in E.T., that sort of suburban thing where every house looks the same, but curved streets, and then there's hills in the distance kind of thing, but not a lot of personality. It's quite sterile. The difference between where E.T. was filmed, because I looked at that, it's north of LA and this is south, but this is a more affluent community. It's not, ritzy titsy flash like Newport, whatever else, but people are there with money, with good jobs. And why they're predominantly there is because of the education. Apparently it has the highest admissions rate for, I think, local or public schools in the US. And it's also for the population size, quite often quoted as one of the safest city in America. But it's not, it's a city, but that's not the sort of picture I'm trying to paint. I'm trying to paint a more sort of suburban, gated communities.
Housing estate.
Housing estates,
Giant
that's
housing
right.
estate. That's what I'm picturing. Yep.
Yeah.
When
And
you said sterile, I straight away went to housing estate.
Yeah.
That's what I
think
about.
People make fun of it because it is considered to be this cookie cutter sterile. If you've got no personality, but you've got a bit of money, then you'd go there. Do you know what I mean? It's not a place you go for personality. It's, it's like, oh, haven't we made it? We've gone to Irvine, that kind
not
of thing.
edgy.
It's not edgy. Anyway, so this story starts in February of 2011 outside a school. And the school is Plaza Vista, a school in Irvine. And there is a woman there by the name of Kelli Peters who has been called to the front office from her volunteer after-school job. So she's in a classroom helping children get ready for Taekwondo before the teacher arrives who normally looks after it. And Kelli has this role where she's a mum at the school. She's 49 years old. She's this sort of petite little blonde, and everybody at the school knows her. She's a school mum, and she's been on the PTA for a long time, and she's such a trusted source at the school that she actually has a desk in their front office because she manages all of their after-school extracurricular activities. So when school's finished and everyone's off to their little clubs and whatever else, she's in charge of managing that. It's a voluntary position. She doesn't live too far from the school, and she adores it. The kids all know who she is. A lot of them have known them, not their whole life, but certainly their entire school. It's an elementary school.
Yep.
They're little kids having a wonderful life, and it's this lovely school in a very safe area, and she loves the gig. And on this particular day, she's had a call from the karate teacher, said, I'm caught in some traffic. There's a traffic jam. Can you get the kids ready for me? I'll scoot in as soon as I get there. She's like, no worries. So she's warming them up. And then she has somebody from the front office come down to her in the school and say, Kelli, the police are here. The police are here to see you, and they're asking for you by name. And she's like, oh my God, it's my husband. It's my husband. My husband is a traveling salesman, which sounds kind of dodgy when you say it like that, but You know, he just he's a person who's in sales and travels a lot. That's such a dated kind of term. And she was like, oh, you know, something's happened. Who's always on the road, who's always away. Oh my God, it's my husband, it's my husband, it's my husband.
Going door to door.
Yep. Yeah, but that's the image that you have, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when she gets to the police officer, he says to her, you know, hello, ma'am, you know, you Kelli Peters, ask her, and she's like, oh my God, is it my husband? And he's like, no, calm down. It's not your husband. It's not your husband. And she was like, oh, you know, I just assumed, you know, is everything okay? Everything's okay. And then once they settle that, she's like, oh, well, what can I help you with? Why, what is it? And he said, well, we've just had a call to suggest that there's been a woman with your description who's been reported of driving, oh gosh, what's it called when you drive haphazardly? Recklessly outside the school, and that someone seems to think that you've been seen with drugs in your car. And she's mortified. No, I don't know what you're talking about. What could that possibly be? And she's upset. She's sort of crying and distraught. And the person who is a veteran policeman of like 22 years says at that point, he goes, no big surprise. You know, everybody lies when they're caught. No one's ever got drugs. No one's ever going to say, yes, I've got them or whatever else. But while her legs have buckled underneath her and she's shaking and sobbing, you know, insisting that she hasn't done it, the whole school is sort of starting to, you know, leave their extracurricular classes. Her daughter's inside and she's in a panic saying, I don't really know what's going on. I don't understand why, no. And the other staff members are going, I don't think you've got the right person. The police officer saying, I've got your name and there's been a description of your car. Is your car in the car park? And she said, yes. And he said, well, can you take me out to the car?
Let's go and have a look.
Let's go and have a look. So as it turned out, her car was out there and the police car was parked directly in front of it, so she wouldn't have been able to leave anyway. But they'd been given very definitive information about what the car was.
A white car with a geometric design on it and New York number plates.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kelli is a pretty bohemian type person. Like, she's teeny tiny. I don't know. She used to work in mortgage or selling mortgages.
She's rubbed someone up the wrong way, eh?
Maybe. She had worked in mortgages. She got married a little bit later. They had some fertility issues. So by the time she actually fell pregnant, like she's 49 with a 6-year-old, it's not uncommon, but she went, you know, I don't think I want to do that anymore. I just want to look after my daughter. And then she loved working with the school so much that that's how she found herself there. And everyone loved it. You know, apparently she'd wear flip-flops around and she'd have like a, you know, she's a bit of a tree hugger. She'd wear bright sun. She's just a ray of sunshine. But because she had that sort of bohemian side to her, I think that some people said on that day, they went, oh, I wouldn't have picked it, but maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. Anyway, so they all are looking and they say, what's going to happen? So she gets a call. They call her outside. So this is February the 16th of 2011. And then after she's been called to the hall, they take her outside and they say to her, right, we've had a call to say that this is what's happened at the school. And there's a man called at 1:15 p.m. saying it was dangerous driving in the car park. And
in the car park?
In the car park. So very specific.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he tells her about this claim and she's like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I was already in class by, 1:15. I got here, I don't know, 12:30, 12:40. And he's like, well, the call came in at, 1:15. We've got very descriptive.
I don't care.
Let's go and have a look. Could we search your car?
Excuse me, officer, this lacks the ring of truth.
So they go out to the car and she's like, yeah, absolutely, let's go check it. He opens the back door of the car and in the sleeve is a bag sort of half poking out with marijuana and pills in it.
Guilty.
And she's like, oh my God. And he places it on the top of the car and she's sobbing, saying, please, my daughter, the children are coming out, please just hide them, and he's sort of like, of course you'd want to say that kind of thing. But she's like, someone's going to see them. And apparently she's just like in an absolute panic. But she's like, I didn't put them there. I've left my car unlocked. They're not from me. And she's, in a panic. The daughter arrives, the husband's arrived. She doesn't know what to tell them and the policeman takes her back inside and he continues to sort of talk to her.
Do a tox screen. Take my blood.
So they do all of that. So they go inside and whilst we've got her on school grounds, there are so many issues with the drugs alone, but the drugs on school grounds is a totally different league of
naughty.
Yes. So what they find is marijuana, and she also had Vicodin and how do you say it? Percocet? No, Percocet.
Percocet.
Yeah, without a prescription. So they're both in the back in these little, the little baggies. And there was also a pipe, a ceramic pipe. in with
Swanny,
everything.
for those who aren't in the know, what do you do with those other two drugs that aren't marijuana?
I don't know.
I
They're
thought
what I call American drugs.
Me
Do you know what I mean?
neither.
They're in American
Yeah.
movies. I don't know. Maybe someone
I
can you
know,
Google it and tell me?
I will. Did you
They're
say
housing
Vicodin?
estate drugs.
That sounds like a weight loss treatment.
I reckon they're to make your life more fun because you're bored shitless in your
They are prescription drugs, but why do people take them? Which one's which?
Because they're
What's
bored
Vicodin?
So
shitless.
Vicodin is basically Panadol Fort. It's
No.
a narcotic analgesic. Yeah, so it's got a bit of hydrocodone in it and
Has it got codeine in it? It must have
paracetamol.
something in it. Surely it's not-
Hydrocodone, which is like codeine. It's an
Okay.
opiate.
And
Yeah.
what about the other one?
The other
Is
one
it, how do we
was-
say it?
what did we say?
Percocet. Percocet.
Okay, Percocet is oxycodone. So she's got a lot of oxy.
Well, that's serious, yeah. So
Yeah.
processing their narcotics and without a prescription was a felony at that time. I don't know if that's changed, but that was what it said.
They're for bored house mums who live in a perfect housing estate.
He could have taken her to the station there and then, but he didn't. He took her inside, and it was only through his experience, I think, that he continued to test her. So whilst he has her in the, I don't know, it was a boardroom, one of the schoolrooms, interviewing her, he conducts
The
what I
principal's
again
office?
call the American test, as opposed to just doing like what
Can
we
you
do
just
here
walk
with drug
straight?
tests. Correct. Things
You're-
like that.
Bullshit.
She had like her pulse taken. He checked whether her
Mm-hmm.
her pupils were dilated.
Pupils are like pinpricks.
She had to test. She had to close her eyes and count. It was so like
Dumb.
for
Can you say
Australians. We would just
oxycodone
go
3
straight to drug and
times
we'd go
fast?
straight to a drug and alcohol testing. They had to do these sort of like benign little, can you do anyway? The point was she came up clear. He was like, there's nothing in this woman's system. She hasn't done drugs, and she's still like absolutely, devastated
Upset.
about this whole thing. So this is what had been said on the phone call that was made to the police station.
By
The call was
nasty
not
bastard.
made to
The school.
emergency. No, or 9.
Direct just to...
So it's harder to trace.
Yeah.
Versus a call that comes through and is totally recorded. It was good, but it's the number that is difficult.
But,
So-
if you are worried that someone's driving dangerously in a car park with
Park, yeah.
school kids, you'd call 000
not
wouldn't
immediate.
you, or 999
No,
or...
you'd go
No.
get her at your leisure.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
ring up Mini
It's
Ponds
only
police
kids.
station and
Yeah,
let
don't
you
worry. It's
know.
like kids that I've seen someone with drugs. Yep.
Yeah,
So
I'm surprised
this is
you'd
what
ring and not just go there and tell them.
yeah.
this is what the caller
Catch the bus.
says.
Sorry.
when he calls the police department. So it's 1:15 p.m. and a man calls to report dangerous driving in a school parking lot. Quote, I was calling because my daughter's a student at Plaza Vista Elementary School, said the caller, and I'm concerned one of the parent volunteers may be under the influence or using drugs. I had to go over to the school and I saw a car driving very erratically. The caller said he had seen drugs in the car. He knew the name of the driver,
How
Kelly.
close was he to the car?
He knew the type of car, a PT Cruiser. He even knew the license plate and what was written on the frame, and apparently around the frame of her license plate. So, you think of these as very American kind of thing. It said only for, as in the number, only for the groovy. So that's quite a detailed description. You've given
Clearly
her
on
name,
drugs.
the car type, her license plate number, and the license plate frame.
I mean, that's what
It's quite
every
specific.
police officer would want. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think,
Case closed.
So that was the call that had been. So whilst he's sitting there talking to her and trying to get more and more information out of her, he's like, it's not quite adding up. So as I said, he doesn't arrest her. He doesn't take her down to the cop shop. He's very patient with her. And then he's also able to talk to the other school administrators and says, the call came in at 1:15. And they're like, no, she was in class
She's in
already.
class.
And he's like, I don't think someone's going to wait 35 minutes to make a call if someone's driving dangerously in a school car park, and they're saying they're on drugs. He said, so that puzzled the policeman. So then they've tried to call the number the caller had given. So he left a number and it was fake.
Surprised me.
At that point, the
They
policeman
lacked
asked
the
if
ring
he
of
can-
truth.
if he could take Kelli Peters to her apartment to look at her apartment. And she agrees reluctantly, but she says, I'm concerned if someone can plant drugs in my car, they could just as easily do it at my house. Why wouldn't they do the same? But she's desperate and clearly, this is not me. It's not me. I haven't done anything. So she drives her PT Cruiser to the apartment, which is only about a block away, and she's followed with the daughter and in another car kind of thing. So they get there. She did run a small business, and you'll be delighted to hear that the name of the business was Only for the Groovy.
I was going to say, was it only for the groovy? Yeah, right. That
She
makes sense.
painted dye jeans. Didn't really pay the bills. It was just like more of a hobby kind of thing.
Because
She
it was
made
only
like
for
a-
the groovy.
Only for the groovy.
Yeah.
So they looked everywhere around. He said that he was particularly looking for the little plastic bags that matched the type that the pills were in. And he found nothing, not a thing, nothing to link her to the drugs in the car. They went through all the cabinets. He said, in some cases it should have just been an open and shut pill. He said, but there was something about this case. He thought, this is really odd. He said, no one leaves a bag of pot halfway sticking out a seat pouch as if it's begging to be discovered. He said, people typically hide their drugs. They're put in glove boxes or under the car seat.
Someone trying to set someone else up absolutely does
Correct.
that. Yeah.
And he said, I didn't know why, but it seemed to bother me. He said, and pot smokers didn't typically keep their pipes inside the stash bag in themselves. So it was kind of like, it just wasn't quite adding up. So this poor Kelli Peters is in pieces. She's convinced she's going to spend the night in jail, and, she's just her whole life is falling apart in front of her. But they've let her stay at home. He goes back down to the police station, and he goes and sees a police chief. They have a bit of a conference, and it quickly got seized by all of the staff. Everyone was like, what?
We want some of that.
What is going on here? This is not right. Someone's involved. So they were saying to her, come on, is there anybody? Has anything happened?
Who is it?
Everyone's like, no, everybody likes me, and I work at school, and I work so hard, and the parents love me and the kids love me.
Someone doesn't.
There was one.
But there
was one mother last year who got very upset. Yeah, I guess she's an enemy, actually. She's been quite vocal about her dislike for me. So let's park that there. And I will introduce you to another set of parents at the, what's it called, Plaza Vista? Plaza Vista School in Irvine. So this couple are Kent and Jill Easter.
God, Kent Easter.
And Kent and Jill Easter live in a 3-car garage, Mediterranean-style, house on a block that has flawless lawns, and the facades are all repeating. And they have 3 young children, and they are both lawyers. They are in their 30s, their late 30s, and they both have elite education. They're not just your bog standard, went to law school. These guys are the real deal. He had studied at Stanford and UCLA Law School, and she had been to Berkeley Law. So again, very prestigious law schools. And they're not just some hicks that have sort of just turned up. These guys have studied hard and are reaping their rewards. At the time of this incident, Kent is practicing, and Jill has become a stay-at-home mother and has let her license to practice law lapse, which means you can still get later, but she's not actually practicing. She's being a stay-at-home mum, and her daily life was sort of a myriad of play dates at the community pool, sushi with girlfriends, hair salons, Starbucks, and yoga. Meanwhile, he was working, 60-hour work weeks as a partner in one of Orange County's biggest law firms in Newport. So he had a fancy office overlooking Newport Beach, and he was the breadwinner, and he was on his way to become partner. So he was really doing a lot of work, but really, really providing. But one of the things I thought was kind of, again, funny, given that we had groovy, what was it, Only for the Groovy, these guys had license plates with their university names on them, on their cars. I didn't know you could do that. So he had a UCLA one, I think, and maybe he had a Stanford one that it said UCLA Law as the writing on it. I'd seen it described somewhere, and hers was like a Berkeley one. But, they wanted people to know who they were, right?
Yeah. How fantastic.
Yes. So when Kelli Peters starts telling them about the person who's perhaps behind this and their enemy, she is shuddering and shaking, her voice is cracking, and she reveals that a year earlier she had a run-in with Jill Easter at school. And she said, actually, on reflection, at one point she did say that she would get me.
Kill you. I'll get you, my pretty.
So the drugs were found in February of 2011. I need to take you back nearly a year to the day, to February 17th of 2010.
So the run-in.
As it was actually...
A year later. I mean, revenge is a dish best served cold, isn't it?
Yeah. And it wasn't a year date-wise, but it was a year like it was the third Wednesday of February kind of to the year kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
When they looked at it, like somebody was just waiting. So on the day that this incident really, the little, it all stemmed from, February 17th, 2010 was a Wednesday. It was, pretty usual, one of the busiest afternoons of the week in a school. And Plaza Vista Elementary was buzzing and Kelli Peters was super busy. So a tennis class had just ended on the playground behind the main administrative building. And Kelli Peters, who, remember, she was the volunteer director of the after-school classroom enrichment program called ACE. And she had the task of rounding up all the kids and then she would get them out to their parents to be collected. So remember, this would be probably, if school finished, I don't know, let's say school finished at 3, this might be at 4, or it might be 5 or whatever else. So it's after the normal school day. So it's less children coming from certain spots doing activities being then ferried to a certain point to be collected. She would lead them into the building, through the back door, hand them off to parents waiting the sidewalk at the front of the school. However, the Easter's 6-year-old son, who we don't know his name, had been left outside briefly. He was waiting at the locked back door for someone to let him in, and the man who ran the tennis class had found him and he walked him to the front desk. Jill Easter thought her son seemed upset and demanded to know what had happened. So then Kelli Peters comes in and says she explains that the boy had been slow to line up and that he tended to take his time, so that wasn't particularly unusual. She said she hadn't noticed he was missing when she'd scooped up the others. Kelli Peters says, I apologised over and over, and when she wrote the account to the school officials, she said, I gave him a hug and I thought that she looked okay with everything, but Jill Easter was absolutely not okay. She seemed really fixated on the tennis coach by Kelli Peters' account at that time and wondered whether he had touched her son. Wasn't it strange that the coach had brought him to the front? I kept saying, no, it's not strange. A lot of my instructors bring the kids up the front, Peters wrote. The conversations made Kelli Peters uncomfortable and she wanted to end it. She made a comment as I walked away that she wondered how I could sleep at night with the way I treat people. I went inside and started crying. I was so upset, Peters said. But the weird thing was that she never changed her facial expression. Jill Easter always had this same weird smile the whole interaction.
How do you sleep at night?
I think I know why she had the same weird smile because I've seen
she done a lot of Botox.
She's had a lot of work done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she was like, it was
that's
full
her default face.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the, really.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm shocked.
So Kelli Peters is, pretty distraught at this. How I'm so sorry. Everyone's like, it happens, and it was apparently like maximum a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. But the day after the confrontation, Jill Easter complained that her son had been crying hysterically after being locked out of the school building for 19 minutes, and she wanted Kelli Peters gone. She told Kelli Peters, she told me that she blames my son because he is slow and he often gets left behind. It's hard to wait for him, Jill Easter wrote to school officials. For the record, my son is very intelligent, mature, athletic, and has successfully participated in many ACE classes. He is receiving good grades and has earned many awards this year. He is not mentally or physically slow by any standard. So this all stems from Kelli Peters saying that the boy was slow to join the group. And the mum has taken it as like an affront to suggest that her son is slow mentally. And she's not having it.
When you said that, I thought she meant disinterested slow, not really paying attention to what was going on, a bit disrespectful to Kelly and just kind of doing things at his own time. Not
well, like, to be honest, I think he was.
Slow or...
I know. Kelli Peters said that she had always had a lovely relationship. She said such a sweet boy, really lovely little boy. She said, but it wasn't the first time that he'd sort of been, come on, mate, a bit of a dawdler. But I mean, kids at that age are like, it's not a big mystery. The district ACE director, in her own reports, wrote that
district ACE. I'm escalating this.
Oh my God, you wait. And wrote that she'd interviewed the coach as well as the Easters and concluded that nothing happened to the boy, just been left outside close to 5 minutes. What then?
Can I speak to the supervisor?
Yes, this is definitely like a Karen. What could account for Jill Easter's ire? It seemed to boil down to that single word. And Easter thought Peters had called her son intellectually slow versus, physically slow coach. Yeah, catch up.
Meandering.
Kelli Peters adored the Easter son. She knew him as a quiet kid, smart, prone to daydream, a participant in the school arts program that she'd worked hard to keep alive. He'd race up to her and show her how proud he was about his drawings. I thought he was amazing, she said. Kelli Peters' friends suggested that maybe the boy's attachment to her played a role in making the mum a little bit
jealous,
upset. Yeah. Peters did not know this, but she said, maybe he went home and said, Miss Kelly this, Miss Kelly that, Miss Kelly whatever else. And, of course, then when she turns up, she said it was just all a bit too easy for her to go, we don't like Miss Kelly. So she basically starts a campaign to get rid of Kelli Peters, and she's not going to let it go. She talked to the school principal that week after the incident. She didn't want the other children to be hurt, is what she was saying to the principal.
By who? By Kelli?
By Kelli Peters. And she starts mentioning at this point that both she and her husband are attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, important.
Kelly Phillips
and relevant.
learns that Jill Easter has been approaching parents on campus to rail against her. This could be construed as harassment. So the principal gets involved, and she says to Jill Easter, this has to stop. The school has a rule about civility. I think we need to drop it. Nothing's going to happen. It's all fine.
No, you didn't.
Not on my watch, says Jill.
Not
Hold my beer.
I don't think so.
You think that was bad?
She wasn't having it. She's like, she stated that what she was doing wasn't harassment, and that she is fully within her rights, and she is going to continue until Kelli is gone. She also stated that she might be making a sticker or sign for her car stating what Kelli had done. You laugh about having the butterfly in the back of the car. But a car drove past, and it seemed to have a paragraph written about a woman leaving my son out by the back closed door.
I couldn't quite read it all because it was small
it drove
writing.
Past at 5 kilometres an hour so long. I couldn't quite get it all.
I walked past when it was stationary parked at the lights, and I still couldn't read it all.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. So Kelli Peters, who has volunteered for years without any incident, with no controversy, she says to the principal, look, do you want me to leave? Will that make everyone a little bit more comfortable? And she's like, of course not. It's no, Jill Easter can do what she likes. She can demand what she wants. We're not interested. Well, Jill Easter did. Jill Easter went to the Irvine Police Department to look into it. They did, and they believed there'd been no crime. She requested a restraining order, claiming that Kelli Peters was harassing and stalking myself and my 6-year-old son, and had threatened to kill her. The court threw it out. Then came the civil suit, filed by Kent Easter, the father, claiming his son had been the victim of false imprisonment and intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Of false imprisonment. He was left outside.
Yeah.
And
he had suffered extreme
imprisonment.
He suffered extreme and severe mental anguish.
Because
the acts of defendant Peters alleged above were willful, wanton, malicious, and oppressive, and justify the awarding of exemplary and punitive damages. What
a load of old.
The Easters did drop the suit.
Because there was nothing in it.
As a result of their complaints, the school required a head count before children were released from the after-school program. I'm sure that wasn't a problem.
Oh, brilliant.
And the Easters got a refund on their ACE tuition. Otherwise, at that point, the power couple had lost. The school stood by its long-term volunteer. Actually, in early 2011, she was elected the PTA president. So although things had been terrible and she'd be getting so much grief from the Easter family, the Easter couple, the community and the school rallied around her and were like...
Everyone else was on her side.
Yeah. After that initial bit, they were like, just leave it, whatever. These people, just let it go.
Whack jobs.
I know. So now I need to take you to the time just after the drugs have been found in the car. So now we've left the incident in 2010, February 2010. We've gone a year later, and these drugs have been placed in Kelli Peters' car. And the day after, they've gone, okay, well, I think we might have to look into this Easter family, shall we? So at that point, they were asking her whether other people that she thought perhaps could be involved. And Kelli Peters went, well, actually, there's that Easter woman, Jill Easter, but there is another man at the school who wanted a position in the PTA recently, and when I was made president, I don't think he was particularly happy. And they're like, oh, please, tell us more. What do you know about this man?
Do tell.
So the other possibility was a 43-year-old dad who lived across the street from the school and had a reputation for bizarre behaviour. Imagine if that was your dad. Oh, isn't your dad the man who lives across the road with, he's got the reputation Bizarro.
With a reputation.
Oh, is that your dad Bizarro? Oh, yeah, that's him Bizarro. And worse, police knew Bizarro well. They had responded to complaints about him wandering onto campus without permission, ranting at school staff.
I thought you were going to say without pants.
Heckling the crossing guard, videotaping the crosswalk as kids walked through it. At least once he showed up in a Batman costume, masked and caped to pick up his son. He made parents nervous. That does not surprise me. But Peters had always felt a bit sorry for him.
Imagine how much his son loved that and how much everyone else was weirded out by
Oh
it.
my God. That's pretty
I
hardcore,
like
actually.
him.
That's very weird. You wouldn't really want someone like that doing that shit.
I reckon it wasn't him.
But now she's recalling, she's like, well, he did want my PTA job and he'd asked her for copies of the bylaws. So he was quite serious about it. And she said, maybe he'd studied them and he knew that if drug possession would totally disqualify me from my position. Maybe he is behind it. So the cops started looking into him.
Bizarro.
They didn't really come up with much. Anyway, they said Bizarro need to park, and they said they did think it was likely to be him. They thought it would be more likely that it would be him than the two lawyers that they'd never heard of, right? Than Bizarro, who they knew well.
But of course, if anyone's going to do bizarre stuff around here, it's Bizarro.
Mm-hmm. So a former highway patrolman by the name of Andriozzi, and who had worked on narcotics for years, or plain clothes, had a beard, a bit of a half mohawk. He ends up getting the lead detective on this case, and he was given carte blanche. Safety and schools were the twin pillars of Irvine's pride. And I said this before, it's all about education. That's the thing that people care about there. You know, next city over in Newport, it's all about flashy cars and jobs and how beautiful you are. In Irvine, it's all about where you go to school, what you're going to do what you do at school, and where you're going after that.
Get to the bottom of this and quick.
He said he couldn't rule out Kelli Peters for drug possession just because she came off as sympathetic. He checked her record. It was clean. He asked about the school. Everybody loves her. He said when he played the call that had summoned police to the school on February 16, 2011, when the dispatcher asked for his name, the caller had said Vijay Chandrasekhar, and he'd spelled it out. The caller claimed to have a daughter at Plaza Vista, but the school had nobody by that name. Now, that's quite a difficult name just to pull out of nowhere.
It's got to be someone. Someone's got to work with a Vijay.
Andrew noticed too that
I reckon he's a lawyer.
Yeah, he started off speaking standard American English. He inexplicably acquired an Indian accent midway through the conversation. Fate, half-hearted one, as if suddenly deciding the name he'd given required it. Some of Andrews' colleagues believed it was Peter's PTA rival they thought it was Bizarro trying to disguise his voice.
Well, it would be in keeping with Bizarro's Bizarro.
Yes, correct. They traced the call.
I mean, the accent, the temporary accent would be Bizarro related. Not the rest
It's
of
totally up Bizarro's alley, right? They traced the call. It had been placed from a wall-mounted phone in the ground floor business office of the Island Hotel, an elegant high-rise resort in Newport Beach. Detective Matt McLaughlin went to the hotel basement to study surveillance footage.
Yep.
On the screen, people moved in and out of the lobby. He was looking for the PTA rival, a 5'8" Asian man in his early 40s, but there was no sign of Bizarro. There was, however, a tall, lanky figure he did not recognise, a man in a dark suit who walked calmly towards a business centre. But the school principal recognised him when she was shown the footage. It looks like Kent Easter.
That's Kent.
Rightio.
Brilliant. Ba, ba, ba.
Bizarro as you were.
Step down, Bizarro.
So Andriozzi's team start following the Easters and learning their habits. They learned that Kent Easter's office was just a few hundred metres from the Island Hotel, and they discovered that the couple's home on Santa Julia Street in Irvine was about a mile from the Peters apartment. They discovered that Kent Easter carried a BlackBerry while his wife had an iPhone, and that between 2:37am and 4:21am on February 16th, 2011, early on the day of the drugs turned up in Peter's car, their phones had exchanged 15 texts. The iPhone had been pinging off the cell phone tower nearest the Easter's home. The BlackBerry was pinging off a different tower, the one near Peter's apartment, where the PT Cruiser had been parked in the outdoor lot. The lot did have a code-activated gate, but was easy to infiltrate if you just were patient enough to follow another car through.
A pair of idiots. They're lawyers. They're obviously not criminal lawyers. They would know a bit more. You know, they must be do surveying or real estate or something.
Yeah, they seem like they're dodgy as. It's Marbo, it's the vibe kind of lawyers.
It is a bit.
It's convincing. Probate lawyers at best.
I need to get
White car, 2 black men. Guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all you got?
So they start following them, and after just a couple of weeks, they think this is going to be really difficult. Not because we don't have some evidence, but because these guys are lawyers and they're going to find every loophole, every trick of the book. They're going to lawyer up. We're going to have to be really clever about how we approach this, or it's never going to get anywhere because they're going to be able to just stop us before we can move ahead with this. So after following them for some time, they follow Ken Easter to work, and he's alone, like in a car park at work, like in a movie kind of thing. And the two detectives approach him.
Is it underground?
They wanted to come. No, it's a car. It's like above ground. But they debated on how they were going to get into talk, but they thought, look, he's going to try and be brainier than us, so we're just going to try and go gently and sort of play a bit dumb. He doesn't know what we do or don't know. Let's see how we go. The team follow his car to Newport Beach, and his vanity plate, that's what they call them, read UCLA JD1, and it was in a Stanford University frame, just to say, look, I've been to both.
Not Harvard, though.
He pulled into the garage, and they met him as he sort of got out of the car. Their questions were vague. Was he aware of anything that happened recently with Plaza Vista Elementary? At first, he seemed really happy to talk. Yeah, there was a bit of a problem last year. He said his son had been locked out of school and a school volunteer had berated him for being slow. He and his wife had filed complaints, but they'd moved on. We didn't want to press the issue. To say bygones be bygones.
Yeah, sure.
They mentioned the name Kelli Peters. Easter said he'd never met her. Didn't even know what she looked like. As the questions grew more pointed, Andriozzi watched Easter cross his arms. He no longer seemed happy to see the detectives. Are you recording this, by the way? Easter asked. Yeah, Andriozzi said. He had heard of anything happening to Peters lately. Had she been in trouble? No. Now Andriozzi's partner, Detective Brannon, said, got any idea what the heck we're talking about? No. Brannon told Easter he'd been following him. He had seen him coming out of the dry cleaners. You know, you've got to ask yourself as an educated man, why in the heck would I be following you around? Because that's all I do. I work in criminal investigations. All I do is follow people around. I learn their little habits. You got to start asking yourself, why are we standing in front of you, talking to you? I definitely am.
You got to ask yourself, did he fire 5 or 6 shots?
They asked him to think about 2.5 weeks ago. Was there any reason he would be out in the small hours of the morning? Now and then he ran out for diapers, he said. But the odds were he was at home.
For a 6-year-old child or his wife?
No, they've got 2 other children.
Right.
Easter now looked very nervous. When he was nervous, he did what the caller had done. He began to stutter.
Stutter rap.
I thought you were going to say talk in an Indian accent.
Indian accent, yeah.
I want you to use that big brain of yours, mouth closed. Listen, the detective told him. At some point during this conversation, you're going to have to make a big boy decision, and that's going to be on you. In the age of computers and technology and cell phones, Big Brother's always watching. We're absolutely not the smartest guys in the shed, okay? But we can follow the dots from one to the next to the next. They knew, he said, that Easter's phone had been pinging in the middle of the night near Peter's apartment, and if there was DNA on the drugs in Peter's car, they would find it. Brannon said to him, the other detective, I would hope and pray for your sake that there's a big light going off, big bells going off. Knowing what I just told you, is there anything you would like to add to your statement to me, whether retracting or adding anything to your statement? I would like to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's the big boy answer. The search warrant crackled as Andriozzi pulled it out of his back pocket. In the centre console of Easter's car were some diet pills. They were in a miniature plastic baggie. The same label said easy dose pill pouch, as they'd seen elsewhere. Now we're talking. Well, we're going to try and talking. Jill Easter wasn't talking. And in them looking into Jill Easter, oh my God, this woman. Okay, so when they went to check the house, in the master bedroom, they found a copy of Jill Easter's self-published novel called Holding House, written under the pen name Ava Bjork. It had just come out. In fact, it came out the day after the drugs were planted in Kelli Peters' car. She smiled glamorously from the back cover with styled blonde hair and arresting blue eyes. Like its author, the female protagonist was a Berkeley-educated lawyer who found work at a Bay Area firm. It explained on the blurb, she was a formidable woman a patient with formidable intelligence, alluring men but unlucky in love. To cope with life stresses, she mixed wine with Xanax. When wronged, the heroine burned for revenge and applied her patient formidable intelligence to the task, exacting it.
Just like Jill does.
Well, Jill Easter waited unhappily for police to complete their search. A second team of cops converged on the other thing, that's when they were going through his office in Newport Beach. It was only at this point the 4th of March. So remember, this had the drugs had been planted in February, 16th of February. So looking for evidence that they could have planted the marijuana and the painkillers in the neighbour's car, and just trying to find out if this was just like a bizarre end game for their grudge that they held against Kelli Peters. They ran into trouble when they got to the law office because of the client confidentiality of the documents that were in there. You couldn't just go and seize everything. It became very complicated. And they had to send someone in who could take some parts, had to be very specific about what they could take. But their lawyers were like onto this straight away. And neither of the Easters were arrested that day. The evidence seized included the couple's smartphones, and because the detectives believed that their contents might clinch the case. But the phones were soon locked up inside the chambers of an Orange County judge, where they would languish as legal arguments rage, because the law firm, so Easter's law firm, I don't know if the one he worked for, I think, the one he worked for wanted his BlackBerry back because it held sensitive client information. The Easters' criminal defence attorneys wanted evidence on both phones kept from police, citing attorney-client and spousal privileges. It was complicated enough to bring a case against 2 attorneys, even more so when they were married to each other. So you can start to see where it just gets very, very messy. There's also something else going on for Jill Easter. And I like this. It was described in an article that I read. At times, the case approached the threshold of farce. A mashup of Benny Hill, David Lynch, and Desperate Housewives. Into the story stumbles a strapping off-duty firefighter, Jill Easter's married beau. Detectives were sitting in an unmarked car waiting to approach the Easter house when the firefighter came strolling up the block and spotted them. He took off, holding a phone to his ear as Jill Easter emerged from her house in a negligee and noticed the cops before running back inside. Police stopped the firefighter as he pulled away in his pickup.
Did he have a puppy?
His name was Glenn Gomez. He drove an engine for a Los Angeles Fire Department station, 50 miles north. He said he was in town to visit his beautiful Swedish girl. Her name was Jill, and Jill's maiden name was Swedish. Their affair had been going on for 2.5 years. They arranged trysts.
And Kent
swapped explicit photos and traded pornographic texts.
Henpecked guy at home being told, you have to go plant drugs. That bitch can't get away with this. She called our kid slow. In the meantime, she's out there stooping some firefighter.
She's out there stooping her sex ninja. She called him her sex ninja. Or Pappy.
That sounds
and
racist.
Mr. Delicious. He
Mr.
called
Delicious.
her his sex goddess, baby girl, and Mrs. Delicious. Gomez's phone record showed he hadn't been the scene of the drug planting, but detectives hoped to enlist him for their help.
Yeah, they were involved. Mrs. Delicious is also Mrs. Crazy, and you might want to not be involved in this.
I feel a bit sorry.
Did you give her any of these ideas?
Sorry for Glenn Gomez. I do, because he just comes across a bit of a puppy. Yeah. I don't feel too sorry for him. He was married as well. Pappy. Gomez, but it's Spanish, isn't it? Pappy.
I know, yeah.
What would he be? That'd be like, hey, Pappy. Yeah. Daddy, was it?
But he's married, so they're 2 adulterers.
Oh, correct. Yep. Yeah, so I don't feel too sorry for him.
Yeah.
So they were really tight-lipped with the details. They didn't tell him anything, but told him that he was in the middle of something very serious. So I'm sure he was shitting himself. Something that could hurt both his family and his career. Mm-hmm. They kept saying, she'll ruin you. He kept saying, I love her. Would he wear a wire? He agreed. On March 23, nearly 3 weeks after the warrants were served, he agreed. He wanted to show he had nothing to hide and seemed to have a second motive, curiosity. He met her in a park down the street from where she lived, and she took her kids with her, or she had the 2 youngest ones, and she told them that the male was a park ranger and told them to go and play. And then what transpires is this, again, very Jill Easter conversation where he's kind of saying to her, what's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble? I can't afford to have this type of investigation because my husband could lose his job. And I'm going to tell them the truth. I mean, it's not a crime to have a beautiful girlfriend, Glenn Gomez said. He said he thought they should keep their distance for a while. As much as I care for you and love you, it's probably not a smart thing for us to be like talking right now because of what's going on and stuff. He pressed her. I just hope that you are who I think you are, he said. This is so amateur. And I'm pretty sure you are. I'm 99.999% positive. But when I have a detective calling me, it makes you wonder a little bit. Like, that's all.
0.11%.
Easter accused him of abandoning her. I thought that if I ever had some trouble in my life or sadness, that I would have someone to stand beside me, and I don't. It's a hard lesson to learn. She continued to scold him. I don't even know what I need. You don't even know what I need. I need someone like you to see me in the movies, like to come in and help. He persisted. Why are the cops asking him questions? Do you think I know? She replied. I'm waiting for someone to help me. I'm losing everything here. I don't know. Well, if you haven't done anything wrong, then you should be fine. Her tone was growing angrier and angrier. I'm not going to be fine. Do you understand me? Don't just put your head in the sand. This is the moment. This is when I needed someone and you turned your back on me, and I will not survive this.
Think about that, Mr. Delicious.
She's very dramatic.
Soon after the conversation in the park, sex ninja, the firefighter told police they had broke up and she went crazy. She showed up at his Long Beach home and told his wife about the affair, brandishing emails and photos. She detailed the affair in a letter to the dance studio where his wife worked, Gomez told police. It was cleverly written in the third person, according to a police report, as if it were a close friend of Jill's who was writing it.
She's just evil.
She's something.
Here's a piece of work.
The police department called Kelli Peters in late March 2011, more than a month after the drugs were discovered in her car, and told her they really couldn't tell her much, but they wanted to reassure her. And they just asked her that she couldn't reveal anything. She had to be very quiet and she just had to just keep going. That's all they could do. They couldn't reveal what the crime lab had reported, that Jill Easter's DNA was on the pot pipe and the Vicodin pills. They're not on the Percocet. And Kent Easter's DNA was on all three. They just insisted she keep quiet, even about the little that she did know. Anything that could derail the investigation would be like an absolute liability. Keep still. Months went by, and they were no closer to making an arrest. Jill Easter had hired Paul Meyer, an Orange County defence lawyer, so formidable that judges turned to him when they were in trouble. And Kent Easter had enlisted Thomas Beinhardt Jr., a former federal prosecutor with expertise in white-collar crime. Detectives knew around the time of the drug planning, Kent Easter's BlackBerry had been pinging off a tower near the crime scene and had exchanged 15 texts with his wife's iPhone during those pre-dawn hours. But they couldn't.
Yes, I've done it. Have you done it? I'm getting there. Have you done it? Have you done it? Come on, do it.
What about now?
Exactly.
Now?
You can see
What's
that's
taking
what
you
she's
so long?
doing. Show me a photo. Prove
Don't
you've done
you back out of it.
Yeah. You're next.
She deserves it. Don't you feel sorry for her?
Yeah.
So more than 8 months after the crime, still nothing has happened. And they had done so much work, the police department, but everything was still stuck because of client privilege. The district attorney's office did further screening. In November, detectives got a stash of non-privileged Easter texts. To their chagrin, the most anticipated ones, the 15 pre-dawn texts, had been erased before the phones were seized. At the Irvine Police Department, frustration was climbing. Oh my God, it's getting late. Sorry. They seem to be stuck in a holding pattern. A year passed. Can you believe that? Poor Kelli Peters, like she's just in pieces. Her daughter is, now seeing a psychologist because she's having issues. No one can sleep. They're paranoid. They're anxious about everything. What was, this safe, lovely little haven that they lived in is now anything but, and they're just terrified.
At this point, are they aware that the Easters are the suspects or they're not?
No.
So they could
they're not really communicating
it could still
with
be anyone. So that's
I don't
partly
think
why
she thinks that, but she doesn't really know. Yeah, so she thinks something else could still happen.
You know what I mean? Like that's why you're paranoid because you don't know, oh, it's them. I know who to avoid
anyone.
now.
Yeah.
It could be anyone around me. Yeah, that'd be frightening. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a change in the spring of 2012. Christopher Duff, a career prosecutor in his early 40s, joins the team. And among the files that land on his desk was a bizarre caper involving a pair of married Irvine attorneys suspected of planting drugs in a neighbour's car. Duff was
Bizarre caper not involving Bizarro.
I know. Duff was struck by how thoroughly the Irvine police had investigated a crime which the victim had suffered no physical harm. They had put 20 detectives on the case against Kent and Jill Easter at one time or another.
God.
And the lead investigator had spent 6 months on it exclusively. Duff considered the possibilities. In so many ways, he thought it would have gone differently if the attempted frame-up had happened in one of the gang neighborhoods of Los Angeles where he used to prosecute shootings, rather than in a rich, placid city in Orange County. If the cop who found the stash of drugs in Kelli Peters' car had been a rookie rather than a sharp-eyed veteran, if she had been slightly less believable, it was easy to picture that she could have been
put away.
And he was like, having met her, he's like, there's no way she could have coped at all. So he was inheriting a case that had languished for more than a year, to the frustration of locals. Looking over the evidence, the prosecutor decided he had enough. He had their DNA on the pot pipe and the painkillers planted in the victim's car. He had motive and opportunity. He had incriminating smartphone pings. He had convicted killers on less. Now, the Easters expected a warning because they're
Not that they were guilty, but he'd convicted them.
If charges were ever filed, their lawyers told them the DA's office had assured them of advance notice. This would allow the Easters to surrender at an appointed time with bail already arranged, and they could be in and out of booking quickly. They would avoid the pinch of handcuffs, a luxury available to people with money and good lawyers. But Duff was unaware of any surrender agreement. So in June 2012, police moved secretly under his direction. They obtained arrest warrants, careful not to record them in the public computers so they couldn't get wind of it.
Brilliant.
Kent Easter had just dropped his 2 children off at tennis camp when the patrol car pulled him over near a busy intersection in Irvine. He was heading to work.
Brilliant. Everyone.
He was in a suit and equity, and he'd just been made an equity partner. So all that stuff had gone at the beginning. He'd still been promoted, and he was now a high dollar litigator. So like he was really earning the big bucks. He had a deposition that day and boxes of legal papers in his trunk. Police called a tow truck to take his car, handcuffed him and drove him to the county jail in Santa Ana. He was standing in the courtyard when they brought his wife in, and the two
screaming like a
was
harridan.
arrested if she'd been taken from the house. The Easters were being charged with conspiring to plant drugs in Peter's car, the twisted culmination of that year-long vendetta that Jill Easter had started. They were quickly out on bail, but their mugshots were all over the news.
Brilliant.
No one had been killed, but something about this crime, the power of the pettiness. It's true, it's this pettiness, power
It's
and
ridiculous.
pettiness
Yeah.
of the
Just let it
dependents,
go.
confined with the harmlessness of their victim, create this like real depth of indignation. Few cases match pure wickedness.
Yeah.
And one online commentator, one of the most malicious things I've ever heard. Just it makes you so the entitlement that these people have. They think that they are so superior.
And they can get away with it.
Yes. And, it's one thing thinking that you're superior, but then this idea that they still had to go for it. Like, I mean, a year later, still had to get her
up.
Yes. She had nothing. There's nothing that she had.
Yep.
Oh, God.
And the way their workplaces jump into,
Defend
them and protect them.
It's true. Orange County had been dogged by images of rich and plastic people because that's what we know them on as TV, right? Starting with those scenes, certainly with Real Housewives, with its franchise of socialites and their feuds, shopping trips, all this plastic surgery and this ridiculous fighting and just this vile kind of
drama.
That's it,
detachment from real life.
So the Easters became this symbol of this status-obsessed and, crazy people they thought they could behave like they're on a reality TV program where it's not really real. It's still somewhat staged. And for it to happen in Irvine, the country's model master plan city, really invited people to contemplate the ugliness that seethed behind closed doors in places that really promised this sort of ideal life. So we come to the trial, and I think everyone was really intrigued as to how the Easters would approach this. Would they go in as a pair? Would they, use their, high and mighty friends and their associations to protect them? How is this going to work? But I think what the Easters thought was, well, actually, we have to sort this in a way that Jill as the villain and Kent as the hapless cuckold husband, because we want him to be seen by the jury as just as much a victim because, she'd already said they'd already been, working out. They're not going to spend much time. She'd already wasn't practicing law, but their whole livelihood was based, and their very fancy livelihood is based on him being able to practice law. So what they decided was to say that she had become obsessed with the PTA mum. So Kent saying she had planted it. She had lured him into the criminal scheme. She was the reason he sat here today. His life was a shambles. He was on trial for a felony, and it was just because he loved his wife so much. Easter had taken the witness stand in his own defence, which I've heard is ridiculous, casting himself as a figure instantly familiar to aficionados of his crime dramas, the hapless cuckold and sap, undone by femme fatale and noirish machinations. Clearly not my words. They're by Christopher Goffard of the LA Times, who was writing an article about the trial. He made it this sort of pitiful tale where he was a hard man to be, he'd been he was a man who'd been done hardly by, but all the things that he was saying didn't necessarily marry with how he presented. He still came across as someone who was quite difficult to sort of relate to.
I find it difficult to see Kent Easter as a cuckolded fool who has been manipulated by the machinations of his wife. He's a lawyer, for fuck's sake.
And a high-powered one. It's not like he's like,
he knows
what's the guy in the castle?
Yeah,
Dennis Tenuto. He's not Dennis Tenuto.
I only do conveyancing.
You know, he said
That's
that
right.
he knew that his wife had been unfaithful to him off and on for years. I felt that my job was to be a husband, to stay married. Nobody in our family ever got divorced.
It may be true, but it also doesn't excuse going and
She
putting
was
drugs in
bullying
someone's...
him. She'd send emails to him. One of them was, need to get serious, the theme, how to crush the lowly school volunteer who, she insisted, had deliberately locked their 6-year-old son out of his elementary school a month before. The email was a litany of demands. She wanted Kelli Peters' background check. She wanted her arrested. She wanted her slapped with a restraining order. She wanted to sue Peters, the school district, the school board, the Public Schools Foundation. She wanted action by tomorrow, and it was in bold capital letters. So he was like, she was bullying me and harassing me. What could I do? There were 68 exclamation points at the end of her email, if anyone cared to count. Yeah, she's just
I'll go back to the 15 text messages that were deleted, so we don't know what was on it. But I do think there was, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? Have you put the drugs in there? Are you done? When are you coming in? What are you doing?
Of course.
Get onto it, you weak dog.
She thought I had let her down, that I had failed. I hadn't pushed hard enough on this. So her obsession with Peters amplified. He tried to be the reasonable, moderating force. He had not known of her scheme to frame Peters, he insisted. In telling the story, Ken Easter had to explain away a big problem. It was his BlackBerry that had been pinging near the PT Cruiser in the pre-dawn hours. Ken Easter was ready with an explanation. We swapped phones. He had been at home, sleeping fitfully, sore from recent surgery. She had left her iPhone in their bedroom to charge and had taken his BlackBerry. He thought she was downstairs, tending to their sick daughter. Unbeknownst to him, she had slipped out to plant the drugs. He was at work later that day, he said, when she called to say she'd seen Peters popping pills and driving like a madwoman at Plaza Vista Elementary in Irvine. She insisted that he call police, and he reluctantly agreed, afraid she would again belittle him as a failure. To disguise himself, he gave police the first name that popped into his head, which happened to be Vijay Chandasakra, based on an Indian neighbour. He then tried to mimic his untried best.
I thought it was going to be a colleague.
It's incredibly uncomfortable to sit here and listen to something so ridiculous, Ken Easter said after the call was played in court. I feel stupid for having believed her and put my entire career and children in jeopardy. To flesh out its portrayal of Jill Easter as an overbearing shrew with a talent for weaponising guilt, the defence played a tape of her haranguing her former lover, Glenn
overbearing
Gomez.
shrew.
Yep. Poor old Glenn Gomez, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, shrews are threatening at the best of times, but an overbearing one.
And Kent Easter agrees and says, oh, yes, it's a tone I've heard before. That's the voice that I hear when I see the need to get serious email, he said. That's the voice that plays in my mind. I mean, that's when she is upset about something and wants something. Oh. Then he goes on, the defense lawyer, Christopher Duff, gets up and starts asking questions and basically just makes him out to be a total, I wouldn't quite say liar. I said liar, but it's sort of like you're just embarrassing yourself by saying all this. This is just clearly a mockery of what's actually happened. This is not true. The Duff mocked the story of the smartphone swap. If his wife had really been sneaking around Peter's apartment complex in possession of his BlackBerry, wouldn't she have worried about it going off unexpectedly, given that all of a sudden Who Let the Dogs Out started playing on your ringtone? So they're just kind of making fun of him, really. They were all waiting for Jill Easter to walk into the room. She represented Kent's best chance of acquittal, but I think that they realised that wasn't a good idea. So the villain of her husband's narrative, she'd already pleaded guilty in part of her crime. If she went to the witness stand and took the blame for everything, if she backed up his story and managed to come off as a semi-credible, jurors might have reasonable doubt. Duff expected the defence to call her. He was looking forward to the cross. Instead, the defence rested. They think they don't need her. Duff said they think they've won. And it gets more interesting because when she is called by, I think it's by Duff, when she gets in front of the jury, she pretends that she can't hear. And I've seen footage of this.
Sorry,
she
what?
points to her ears, claiming she's got hearing loss and that she wanted a sign language interpreter and she wanted a screen in which to read lawyers' questions
like you and I
in real time.
To Clarkie playing the music earlier today. Can't hear it. Nah. What?
At the prosecutor's table, they believed that it was a ruse to throw off cross-examination to give her a little bit of extra time to process questions because they're like, we'll just have they didn't believe it, but yeah, she'll have an interpreter like everybody else.
Right.
But she wanted it to be able to be read. She's just a nut job. And they say there's a whole show, Orange county housewives where all the housewives are crazy. This is the 21st century. Everyone thinks that their own kid is a star, that you can behave however you like. And this woman has just been empowered by that and thinks she can behave however she likes. And this is real life. This is just ridiculous. The most dramatic moment of the trial came during Duff's final remarks to jurors. He noted that location of cell phones is knowable in 3 ways: when they ping against the nearest tower during calls, when texts are exchanged, and when automatic data checks monitor the device's health. Until now, the data check records, though put into evidence, had barely been mentioned. Irvine detectives had missed their significance during the investigation, as had Duff during the first trial. Preparing for this trial, however, Duff had pored over them carefully and discovered that he thought might destroy Kent Eastman's alibi for good. It had been long established from the text pings that Jill Easter's iPhone had been at the Easter home on the night in question. For at least part of the night, however, the data checks indicated that her phone had also been near the Peters apartment. It had been pinging off the local tower intermittently from midnight to 8 a.m. The Easters had executed the plot together while a babysitter watched their children.
Right.
One had planted the drugs while the other acted as lookout. Even if the Easters had swapped phones, the records put Kent Easter at the crime scene. Guess where her cell phone is, Duff said. By the victim's house. Oops! This seemed to catch defence flat-footed because he had already finished his closing argument. It was too late to try to convince the jurors that this was
just that in a closing argument.
I didn't know you can do that, but anyway, this is what's happened.
So weird.
I didn't think
this is all weird. Anyway, let's go to the in 2014.
It's 3 years after it's happened.
I know, right? Yeah. Kent was convicted of felony false imprisonment and sentenced to 6 months in jail, serving only 87 days in jail. Jill Easter pleaded guilty to the same charge and spent 60 days behind bars. Jill, who had changed her name to Ava Everheart, was disbarred in 2014.
God, that makes me hate her even more.
Oh, there's more. The couple has since divorced, and Kelli Peters won $5.7 million in a civil verdict against them in 2016. The only things that I still really want to add to this is that Ava Everheart has been on Dr. Phil. She was on in 2016, and I mean, I watched it, and it's just awkward. She's just a nut job, deluded, absolutely deluded. So that's her name now. And he's, telling her, that it's got your DNA. And she's like, oh, no, that's transfer DNA. It could have been this, could have been that. And he's kind of got like no time for her, really. She's not a nice person. And he's sort of like, you planned a whole host of stuff, and how have you paid for this woman to get the $5.7 million? They gifted their house to her father. So then he had to sell it later to try and give her some money, but it's nowhere near the $5.7 million. Yeah. And so they've gone. And the last bit of footage, which is on this documentary on Smug Shot, to say, these smug, where have they ended up? I don't know where she is now, but there's footage of him on Jeopardy, his real name, Kent Easter, and he gets a question wrong. That's what they show at the end of this documentary, this Smug Shot. So I know that was a bit longer than I sort of anticipated. You might need to edit a fair bit of it. But that is the story of Kent and Jill Easter.
Pair of dickheads.
My God, what horrible people.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible people.
They are.
Aren't they everything that's wrong with the world?
It is. And I think particularly on the back end of a crime as so serious and life-changing that we were talking about last week with...
Yeah.
Reuben Carter.
Reuben Carter. Hurricane. Yep. This is one of those, what a waste of time, effort, money,
but also
energy,
the resources of the police.
Resources, all of that. It's just wrong on so many levels. But equally, nor should they get away with it. They need to be made an example. It's like, you are not above the law because you practice the law.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. And the fact that there is a website called Above the Law would suggest that they're not the only people who are doing this kind of stuff. It's quite an interesting
read.
And they update constantly on, and people were obviously happy to dob them in, and when they find different bits and pieces, like they're all like these little updates. Like there was very little in terms of, there wasn't a Wikipedia, there wasn't a lot of that kind of stuff that I could find on this. It was all like all over the shop. It was very difficult to put together, and I apologise for that. But hideous people. Would you like to sentence them?
I'm happy to. So I'm going to go old school.
Old school.
Old school.
Need more than nut punch.
Particularly for our mate. No, it's not a nut punch. I'm going back to one of my preferred medieval punishments, my medieval punishment. For our friend Jill, I'm going to make her wear a scold's bridle.
Oh, you've done this before, but I can't remember which one it is.
I have. Scold's bridle is a medieval punishment device, also known as a witch's bridle or gossip's bridle, designed to silence and humiliate women. It was a metal muzzle or frame placed above the head with a spike or bit that pressed down on the tongue, preventing speech. This device was used as a form of public humiliation and was associated with behaviours like gossiping, nagging, or quarrelling. I think she's a right bitch and she deserves that.
Yeah.
And it'll stop her being able to go and carry on like a loon to anyone else. As for him, I think he's going to trial by Wine World, and I'm just going to pop him in Peasant World because, you know, they're both in Peasant World because they
definitely need to be in Peasant World, don't they?
So I'm taking them down a peg or many, and they can reside in Peasant World, and he can just spend his time mucking out the pigs. What do you call it? Sty. He can work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarky? I'm sorry, you're just so emotional after such an in-depth.
I know.
This one's really brought me
am.
to the edge, Swanny. This one's my voice is shaking. So emotional.
No,
so shallow. I'm so sorry.
That's good.
No, it wasn't that at all. I was umming because I'm just trying to work out exactly what I want. So, I mean, this has all stemmed from the fact that someone called her child slow in the context of he was lagging behind.
Hurry up, move it.
Physically. Yeah, not anything else. She's completely misunderstood that. Didn't listen to any explanation against her misunderstanding.
Because she can't
and
hear.
then just went hammer and tongs and kept doubling down on this to try to justify her misunderstanding and completely ruin somebody in the process. I mean, God, what a horrible, horrible person.
I know.
Absolutely.
Desire to destroy people. Like, I don't get it. So I was just thinking about the slow reference, and I would like not for her children to be slow, but for her to have a filter over everything she sees and hears that implies that her children are slow. So even though they're not, she's going to think
that's what she thinks that's being perceived
and be
as that.
so ashamed in public when, you know, they go to the movies or something and she thinks that her children are being pushed around in a wheelchair or can't do the pick and mix picking because they're a little bit slow and not quite capable of that. And so she's feeling like she's having to compensate and do it all for them to avoid the sheer humiliation of how, you know, horrible it must be to have somebody like that in your life. Like it's so offensive to people who are actually in that position, let alone, you know, everything she did as a result of that. So yeah, I think maybe that where she just lives in constant shame of something that actually isn't true anyway.
Oh, very good. I think what I'd like to do is to start off this example. There's a woman that drives around in a car around here. I see her from time to time in a car park, and she leaves these dogs in the car with the windows down. It's like a sort of a beaten up car, but there's all this messaging all over the car. So I want to use Jill's own idea of the sticker on her car. So I want her to have a car that says that she is Jill Easter. She's not able to change her name, that she's Jill Easter, and it's got all the details of the shit that she's done and that she cannot escape. And I want her number plate to have like a really embarrassing no college school, number plate, license plate holder, like all the things that this woman who thinks she's so much better than everybody else, that she ends up just looking like a complete freak, really, someone that nobody looks at with anything other than, I don't understand, what a nut job, this crazy woman. She's lost the plot. She's got no power. She's got no money.
Crazy-o.
Yeah, she's got, and obviously she doesn't have kids. I don't know what she's got, but she's just an absolute mess, like where she has none of that control that she had, and everything that she deems is important. So money, success, power, affiliation, like putting people in their place, connections to good schools, all the rest. It's all gone. And here she is, this crazy lady with all of the signage that says everything that she's done just to remind people of what an asshole she's been. She can't escape it. And it just follows her everywhere. It's this beat up old sedan with, like stickers all over it, like Crazy Town. That's what I'd like to see for her.
Can it have speakers on it as well?
Yes!
Promoting,
holding it, promotes her book.
Here comes the crazy. Here comes the crazy.
It's like, oh my God. And people are just like looking away, go, oh my God. Like, and it's just, she's mortified because it just is like the most shameful thing she can think of. Her holding house over her name. What was the name of the book? No. Who cares? Who
They're holding
cares?
house.
I don't care, Jill. I don't care. No one's
How
interested.
did she change her name to Ava Everheart? Like,
well, it's like her book is Ava Bjork, like as in like.
What
actually, her
wanker.
maiden name, to be fair, I think was Bjorkman.
Was
Wasn't it? I just made that
Bjork.
connection.
Yeah.
I did read that her dad's name was that somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, that, friends, is the story
Cracker.
of the Easters from Irvine, California.
It was
and
excellent.
our friend Kelli Peters, who
Poor Kelli
is
Peters.
a little bit. It has aged her a little. Kelly, she still looks a little bit. Yeah, I think it really messed with her quite significantly.
She's not going to
unfortunately, in her
get
family.
wrongfully convicted of a crime when she's 59 because somebody looked like they were 30.
She does look like she's definitely got post-traumatic stress from it. Seriously, like I feel sorry for her in that respect. She has not.
Oh, it'd be awful.
It would be so. I mean, when you
thing.
think about that year and then the years to get to court and then the years and then to get so very little, and then of course they've got no money because they'd already sorted all that out, you know. So I don't know how much money. I think she has been given money. They sold the estate, they sold stuff, but it was nowhere near the 5.7. Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Swanny. That was quite the ride. We don't say this normally, but I think it's appropriate for this particular episode. And
Don't say it.
No, I was just going to say, shall I see you next Tuesday?
Yeah, I like
Yes,
it. You can say that. I totally agree in this case.
Since
Absolutely.
we
See you
actually
next
do
Tuesday.
record on a Tuesday
See you
anyway.
next
but
Tuesday.
yes.
Perfect.
All right. On that note, as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ta-da, ciao, ciao. Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.